The twin suns of Varnus shone over the crystal towers of the capital city. Silver airships glided between them, leaving trails of blue mist behind. The Grand Council building stood at the center of the city, its white dome reflecting the light like a second sun. Inside, the air was filled with tension and pride. It was a historic day. For the first time in their long history, the Varni were hosting humans. The Varni were tall and elegant, with smooth blue skin and long silver eyes that shimmered with thought. Their minds were advanced, and their science had shaped entire worlds. They saw themselves as calm, wise, and superior among the stars. The arrival of humanity had disturbed that balance. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They were young, unpredictable, and emotional, but their progress in technology and their courage in space exploration had shocked many older races. Inside the council hall, representatives from both sides had gathered. Hundreds of Varni scientists, officers, and nobles filled the shining seats. At the center stood the Galactic Counselor of Science, who had invited a small human delegation to discuss a future of cooperation. Among them was Ryan Hale, a human engineer and pilot with calm brown eyes and a quiet confidence. When the meeting began, Counselor Tavar spoke in a strong voice. "We stand today between two paths. One is isolation, the other is alliance. The human species, though young, has achieved much in a short time. Some of their scientists have ideas that could help our energy programs. We must discuss deeper cooperation, even genetic research," the hall murmured. The word genetic carried weight. It meant combining strengths, mixing biology, maybe even creating life between species. Many Varni disliked the thought. To them, humans were too different, too emotional, too chaotic. Among those who listened was Lyra Valen, one of the youngest and most brilliant scientists on Varnus. She had sharp features, a steady posture, and a mind that always questioned everything. Her reputation for logic and control made her respected and feared. Lyra had little patience for emotion, especially human emotion. When the counselor finished, he invited open discussion. An older Varni noble asked, "Are we to believe humans could share their genes with us? Their bodies are fragile. Their minds are wild. Would this not weaken our race?" A few murmured in agreement. Then Lyra stood. Her voice was calm but carried across the hall like a blade. "With all due respect, this idea is unnecessary. Humans are clever in small things, but their lifespan is short. Their emotions cloud reason. To even imagine mating with them is absurd." The crowd reacted with laughter and nods. The idea of mixing with humans seemed foolish to them. Lyra allowed herself a faint smile, satisfied that logic still ruled her people. But the laughter died slowly when Ryan stood up. He had been silent until then, watching everything with steady eyes. He walked forward with measured steps. His voice was not angry, only calm. "You mock what you don't understand," he said. "But every species once thought another was beneath them. We humans have been called reckless, fragile, and foolish before. Yet every time we survived. We learn fast because we have to. Maybe one day you'll see that." His words were simple, but the hall grew quiet. Lyra's smile faded slightly. She did not expect a human to speak so calmly after being insulted. She met his eyes, searching for pride or offense, but found neither. There was only quiet confidence. That made her uneasy. Counselor Tavar quickly changed the subject, guiding the discussion back to trade and technology. But the moment had already left a mark. Even after the session ended, people whispered about the human who had spoken so directly to a Varni scientist. Some laughed again, but others looked thoughtful. Lyra returned to her research center later that day, still feeling unsettled. Her laboratory was a wide circular room filled with floating holographic screens. She worked on energy synthesis, studying ways to convert radiation into stable fuel. It was clean, logical work, and she liked it that way. But she found her mind drifting back to the council meeting. She replayed the scene in her thoughts. His words repeated again and again. "You mock what you don't understand." Why did they bother her? She told herself it was only because of the public nature of the meeting. Yet deep down she felt something else, curiosity. For the next few days, Lyra noticed humans more than before. The Varni research station had accepted a small group of human engineers to assist with repairs and system upgrades. They worked differently than her people, where Varni followed perfect order and planned every step. Humans worked through trial and error, fixing problems as they came. It looked messy, yet somehow they made progress faster. She saw Ryan again one morning near the station's main reactor. He was standing on a high platform, adjusting a control panel, his hands moving quickly. His uniform was dirty and his face showed exhaustion, but there was a small determined smile as he solved a problem. Lyra observed quietly, trying to understand what drove him. Ryan noticed her after a while. "Dr. Lyra," he said politely, "the reactor's main converter was misaligned. I made a few changes. It should work smoother now." Lyra checked the readings. They were indeed better. "You used manual calibration," she said. "That's inefficient." He shrugged lightly. "Maybe, but it works." That answer annoyed her at first, but she could not deny the result. As he left, she looked after him with a strange feeling. Humans lacked discipline in her view, but they made up for it with stubborn focus. Later that evening, Lyra sat by her observation window, watching the twin suns set beyond the city. The light turned the sky from gold to violet. She thought about how humans had reached the stars despite being so new to space. They had no telepathic networks like the Varnai, no long lifespans, yet they dared to explore dangerous regions. There was something about that courage that bothered and fascinated her. Her friend, a fellow scientist named Taryn, visited her that night. "You still thinking about that human from the meeting?" he asked with a smile. Lyra gave him a sharp look. "Of course not. I was thinking about the reactor project," Taryn chuckled. "You sure?" "I heard he spoke boldly. Some say he embarrassed you." Lyra turned away. "He spoke out of emotion, not reason." "It means nothing." "Maybe," Taryn said softly. "But sometimes emotion drives discovery." He left her with that thought, and Lyra sat in silence for a long time. Days passed, and new orders arrived from the Council. A strange energy signal had been detected beyond the Crimson Nebula. It came from a region known for shipwrecks and storms. The Council needed a team to investigate. To her surprise, Lyra was chosen to lead the science team. The reason was clear. Her knowledge of radiation energy made her the perfect choice. But the second name on the mission list caught her eye. Ryan Hale. For a moment, she felt an odd mix of irritation and curiosity. Out of all the humans, why him? She told herself it did not matter. The mission was scientific, nothing more. Still, she couldn't shake the memory of that calm voice in the council hall. That night, before departure, Lyra stood by the launch bay, looking at the ship they would use, the Starreach. Its surface gleamed under white lights, ready to cross dangerous space. The human engineers were loading supplies, moving with quick and noisy energy. It was different from the quiet grace of Varney workers, yet full of life. Ryan was among them, talking with his team, explaining adjustments to the ship's shields. He noticed her and gave a small nod, respectful but without fear. Lyra hesitated, then nodded back. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Acknowledgement, maybe even understanding. She turned away quickly, reminding herself of who she was. A scientist of logic, not emotion. Yet deep inside, a question had started to grow. What if everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong? What if there was something within them that her people had lost long ago? As the Starreach lifted from the platform and rose into the violet sky, Lyra stood at the window, watching the twin suns fade behind her world. The mission ahead would test them all. But for her, it would test something far deeper. The boundaries of pride, reason, and the first spark of something she could not yet name. The Starreach moved through space like a silver arrow. The stars outside were still and cold, but inside the ship there was life and movement. The crew worked together, a mix of humans and Varnai, each trying to understand the other's ways. The air carried a low hum from the engines as they crossed the silent black sea of space. Lyra stood at the main observation deck, her eyes fixed on the glowing mist ahead. The Crimson Nebula filled the view, a storm of red light and swirling dust that looked alive. It stretched for thousands of kilometers, hiding broken ships, strange energy waves, and secrets no one had ever explained. The signal they were sent to study came from deep inside that glowing storm. Ryan was standing a few steps behind her, checking the readings from a small handheld scanner. He looked calm, though the rest of the crew felt nervous. The ship's Varnai officers whispered that humans were too fearless for their own good. Ryan seemed to prove them right. He worked without hesitation, even when the systems began to flicker from radiation interference. Captain Thal, a tall Varnai with dark blue skin, entered the deck. "Dr. Lyra," he said, "prepare your team. We are approaching the nebula's edge. The radiation is increasing faster than expected. Lyra nodded and turned to Ryan. We will need your help to adjust the magnetic shields, she said in a controlled tone. Ryan gave a small smile. Already ahead of you, Doctor. I boosted the outer coils before we left orbit. Should hold for a few more hours. She studied him for a moment, surprised that he had thought about it earlier. Good, keep me updated. As the star reach entered the glowing red mist, the stars vanished. The nebula surrounded them completely, turning the view into a storm of colors. Static ran through the communication panels. The ship trembled under the pressure of strange waves. Lyra moved to her console, typing fast to stabilize the readings. Energy levels rising, she said, adjusting secondary shields. Ryan's hands moved quickly on his console. Trying to balance power output. The storm is worse than expected. The lights flickered and alarms began to sound. A sudden burst of radiation hit the ship, shaking it like thunder. The main reactor gave a warning tone. Containment field dropping, shouted one of the Varnai engineers. We are losing energy control. Ryan ran toward the lower deck without waiting for orders. Lyra followed, feeling the deck shake under her boots. The corridor lights flashed red as they reached the reactor room. Sparks flew from a panel near the main energy core. Ryan grabbed a repair kit and pulled off the cover. Don't go near it, Lyra said sharply. The radiation level is high. He looked at her briefly. Someone has to fix it. He climbed halfway inside the panel, his hands moving fast, connecting wires and sealing leaks. The heat was intense. Sweat ran down his face, but he didn't stop. Lyra watched him, torn between logic and fear. Humans were reckless, but they were also brave. She helped by rerouting power from the control panel. Together, they fought the storm for almost 20 minutes before the reactor stabilized. The lights slowly returned to normal. The alarms went silent. Lyra took a deep breath. Ryan leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. His uniform burned on one side. He gave a small laugh of relief. Well, he said, that was close. You could have died, she said coldly, though her voice shook slightly. You took unnecessary risk. He looked at her with tired eyes. If I didn't, we all would have. There was no arrogance in his tone, only honesty. Lyra looked away, not sure how to respond. Logic told her he had done the right thing, but part of her felt uneasy at the thought that a human had saved them. Later, when the danger passed, the ship continued deeper into the nebula. The crew repaired the damaged systems and took turns resting. Lyra walked into the medical bay to check on Ryan. He was sitting on the bed, one arm bandaged, smiling faintly as the medic finished scanning him. You should rest, Lyra said. I'm fine, he replied. Just a few burns. Nothing serious, she frowned. You speak lightly about pain. He shrugged. Pain reminds us that we are alive. She did not understand that kind of thinking. Her people avoided pain, avoided risk, avoided emotion. Humans accepted it as part of life. It made them unpredictable, but it also made them strong in strange ways. Why did you volunteer for this mission? She asked suddenly. He looked at her for a moment before answering. Because it matters. We are exploring something unknown. That's what humans do. We try even when others say we shouldn't. Lyra nodded slowly. That sounds like foolishness. Ryan smiled a little. Maybe, but sometimes foolishness leads to discovery. His words reminded her of what he said back in the council hall. She realized that everything about him challenged her beliefs. She had spent her life trusting logic, but logic did not explain why her heart beat faster when he spoke. The following day, the signal they were searching for grew stronger. It came from a small planet deep inside the nebula. The planet's surface was covered in red storms and glowing energy veins that pulsed like rivers of fire. Scans showed ruins across its surface, remains of a lost civilization. This is our destination, Lyra said. Prepare for descent. The landing was rough. The planet's magnetic field pulled at the ship, making it tremble. When they finally touched the ground, dust rose in thick waves. The crew stepped out in protective suits. The air was thin but breathable. Around them stretched endless plains of red rock, broken towers, and dark stone temples covered with strange symbols. Ryan looked around in wonder. This place looks ancient. Lyra studied the symbols on a fallen wall. These structures are older than any known Varnai record. The energy here is still active. It might be connected to the signal. They set up scanners and started collecting samples. Hours passed as they worked together. Ryan climbed broken steps to fix a sensor tower while Lyra analyzed strange crystals that glowed softly in her hands. Every now and then she looked at him, curious about his quiet patience. He never complained, never hesitated. He worked with focus, even in danger. At one point, a dust storm rose quickly, forcing the team to take shelter in one of the old structures. Inside, the air was dry and heavy, but the walls glowed faintly. Ryan moved a broken pillar aside, revealing a large circular door made of metal unlike any they had seen. It was covered in both Varnai-like symbols and something that looked like human writing. Lyra touched the symbols carefully. This should be impossible. No human ever came here before. Ryan pointed to the strange lines. Maybe this planet was visited by something older. Something that understood both our kinds. Her scanner beeped. The door was alive with energy. She looked at Ryan. Help me power this system. Together they connected cables from their portable reactor. The door began to open with a deep hum. Inside was a vast chamber filled with floating crystals and ancient machines. At the center stood a circular device glowing with white light. This is it, Lyra said softly, the source of the signal. As they moved closer, the crystals pulsed brighter. Their suits' scanners showed strange readings that matched both human and Varney biology. It was as if the place recognized them. Ryan stepped forward, touching one of the crystals. It glowed stronger at his touch. It's responding to me, he said. Lyra scanned it quickly. It's also reacting to me. The readings overlap. They exchanged a silent look. It was a moment of shared wonder. The science, the mystery, and the strange connection between them all met in that single place. The air felt alive around them. Before they could study further, the ground shook. A sudden quake tore through the ruins. Dust and debris rained down. Lyra stumbled and part of the ceiling broke above her. Ryan leapt forward, pushing her out of the way. The stone crashed behind them, blocking the exit. She looked at him, shocked. You saved me again. He smiled weakly. I guess I like keeping people alive. The quake stopped, leaving them trapped inside the glowing chamber. Outside communication was gone. They were alone in the ruins, surrounded by ancient technology and a growing sense of something greater than either of them could explain. As the lights flickered and silence settled, Lyra looked at Ryan and realized something had begun to change inside her. She no longer saw a reckless human. She saw someone brave, intelligent, and willing to face the unknown without fear. It confused her, but it also fascinated her more than any scientific discovery she had ever made. And deep in her mind, she wondered if the strange energy around them was not only waking the ancient machines, but also awakening something new between them, a connection that reason could not measure. Dust settled slowly in the air. The ground had stopped shaking, but the sound of falling stones still echoed through the massive chamber. Lyra sat near the broken wall, catching her breath. Her heart was racing. She looked at Ryan, who was brushing dust off his uniform. He had saved her again, pulling her away just before the ceiling collapsed. His sleeve was torn, his hands dirty, yet his expression remained calm. Lyra stood up, her voice steady but soft. You keep putting yourself in danger. Ryan smiled faintly. Somebody has to make sure the scientist stays alive. She looked away, pretending to focus on her scanner. That was unnecessary. I would have been fine. I don't think so, he said, still smiling. You were standing right under that rock. Lyra wanted to argue, but she stopped. There was no logic in denying what he had done. She sighed quietly and changed the subject. We should examine the structure while we wait for the others. Communication is down, but they will come for us once the storm clears. Ryan nodded and picked up his portable light. The chamber was wide and circular, with strange glowing symbols running along the walls. At the center stood the large machine they had seen earlier. It was shaped like a ring, floating above a platform with energy flowing around it. The light it emitted was soft but powerful, like the heartbeat of something ancient. What do you think this is? Ryan asked as he circled the machine. Lyra studied her readings. It appears to be a kind of energy core, but not like anything I have seen before. It is connected to organic signals, not mechanical ones. Organic? Ryan repeated. You mean it reacts to living things? Yes, she said, frowning at the readings. It seems to recognize biological patterns. It reacted to both of us earlier. He placed his hand near one of the glowing panels. The light brightened instantly, spreading in smooth waves across the chamber. Lyra's scanner beeped rapidly. It's responding to you again, she said. Ryan looked around, amazed. It feels warm, almost alive. Lyra slowly reached out and placed her hand beside his. The light grew even stronger, filling the chamber with a golden glow. Her scanner displayed something impossible. The energy pattern. It matches both our DNA signatures. She stepped back, confused. This technology is ancient, but it seems to be designed for both Varnai and human biology. That cannot be possible. Ryan looked thoughtful. Maybe it was built by someone who wanted to connect different races. Lyra stared at the symbols around them. The markings told stories of creation, of beings merging knowledge and strength to survive. Her mind began to race. This could change everything, she whispered. If this machine truly combines energy from different species, it could be proof that life across the galaxy is linked. Ryan knelt beside the platform. Can we take samples or record data? Lyra nodded and began recording. For several hours, they studied the chamber together. The machine seemed to shift slightly when they were close to each other, as if sensing harmony between them. Lyra found that fascinating. She forgot her earlier fear and focused completely on the discovery. She asked Ryan to help her reach the higher panels while she scanned the energy fields. They worked side by side, moving carefully among the glowing lights. Time passed, but neither noticed. For Lyra, it was strange working so closely with a human. She had always thought of them as loud and careless, but Ryan worked with patience and focus. He asked questions not to challenge her, but to understand her thoughts. That made her feel respected in a way she had not expected. At one point, Ryan noticed her staring at a wall of ancient writing. What does it say? He asked. Lyra brushed dust away and read the markings slowly. It speaks about unity, about two paths that must become one to survive the darkness. It mentions something called the Seed of Harmony. That sounds like something important, Ryan said. It could be the name of the device, she replied. Or maybe it represents a project from the civilization that lived here. Perhaps they believed that mixing different strengths could bring balance. Ryan sat on a fallen stone, thinking. Humans always believed unity makes us stronger. Maybe they believed the same. Lyra looked at him. Do you really believe humans and other races can be united? He met her gaze. Why not? We all look different, but we all want the same things. Safety, peace, and a place to belong. His words were simple, yet they stayed in her mind. Lyra turned back to her scanner, pretending to be focused, but she kept thinking about what he said. Unity. Belonging. Words that had never meant much to her before. She had spent her life proving logic was stronger than emotion, but now she was not so sure. As they continued their work, another tremor shook the ground. This time it was weaker, but enough to make the machine pulse brighter. The glowing crystals around them floated slightly, reacting to the motion. Then a projection appeared above the ring, an image made of light. It showed two figures, one shaped like a Varnai, the other like a human. They reached toward each other, and when their hands met, a third figure appeared, shining brighter than both. Ryan stood in silence. That looks like us, he said softly. Lyra's breath caught for a moment. This device must record memories of its creators. They wanted to show the power of connection. The projection faded slowly, leaving them both staring at the empty air. For the first time, Lyra felt something she could not explain. It was not fear or pride, but wonder. The message from this lost civilization spoke to something deeper inside her. They decided to stay near the chamber until rescue arrived. Ryan set up emergency lights and shared his water rations with her. They sat beside the glowing machine, their backs against a wall marked with symbols of unity. The silence between them was peaceful, not awkward. Outside, the storm still raged, but inside there was calm. Lyra finally spoke. When I first met you, I thought humans were reckless. Ryan looked at her with a faint smile. I remember. I said that our species should never mix, she admitted quietly. But now, after seeing this place, I think maybe I was wrong. He smiled wider. It takes strength to say that. She shook her head. It is not strength. It is discovery. You said humans learn fast. Maybe I am learning too. They talked for a while about their worlds. Ryan told her about Earth's mountains and oceans, about the night sky seen from the surface. Lyra listened with genuine interest. She shared stories about Varnus, its twin sons, and how her people believed emotion was weakness. Ryan listened without judgment, just curiosity. Eventually, she asked, Do you ever feel fear, Ryan? He nodded, of course. But fear is what tells me something is worth doing. She thought about that for a moment. I never thought of fear that way. You should, he said. It means you care about the outcome. They both fell quiet after that, each lost in thought. The glowing machine continued to hum softly, filling the chamber with a warm rhythm. Lyra began to feel strange energy around them, like a living pulse that connected her to the human sitting beside her. Hours later, communication signals returned. The storm outside had passed. Captain Thal's voice came through their communicators. Dr. Lyra, Engineer Ryan, we have located your position. Rescue team is on the way. Relief filled the room. Lyra packed the data she had collected while Ryan secured the equipment. Before leaving, she looked once more at the glowing ring. This discovery will change how our people see each other, she said. Ryan nodded. Maybe it already has. When they finally stepped outside, the red sky was clearing. The rest of the crew greeted them with relief. The ruins looked calmer now, almost peaceful, as if the storm had been a test. Lyra handed the data drive to Captain Thal, who congratulated her on the success of the mission. She glanced at Ryan, who was helping another crew member load supplies onto the transport shuttle. Their eyes met for a second, and a quiet understanding passed between them. Back on the Star Reek, as the ship rose from the planet, Lyra watched through the viewport. The red world shrank below, disappearing into the mist of the nebula. She thought about the ancient message carved in the walls, two paths becoming one, a symbol of unity that felt strangely personal now. Ryan joined her at the window. Beautiful, isn't it? He said. Yes, she replied. More than I expected, he smiled gently. Maybe beauty is something that logic can't measure. She turned toward him, and for once she did not try to argue. She simply nodded. As the ship left the nebula and entered open space, Lyra realized that the mission had changed her more than any experiment or theory ever could. She had come to prove human emotion was weakness, but she had found strength in it instead. She had seen courage, compassion, and connection, all within one person she had once mocked. And as she stood beside Ryan, watching the stars return outside the glass, she felt a quiet spark inside her heart, a spark that no science could ever fully explain. The Star Reach glided silently through the calm black of space. The storm of the Crimson Nebula was far behind them, leaving only quiet stars and the distant glow of Varnus on the horizon. The crew moved about the ship with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. For many, the mission had been terrifying, but for Lyra, it had been transformative. The ruins of the lost world, the glowing machines, and the strange energy that had reacted to both human and Varni biology were still vivid in her mind. She walked through the corridors of the ship, watching the crew work. Humans and Varni had begun to cooperate better than she had ever seen before. The humans' creativity and determination had combined with the Varni's logic and experience. Repairs that would have taken days were finished in hours. Lyra paused for a moment to observe the human engineers. They were laughing quietly among themselves while discussing their work. She frowned slightly, feeling a strange mix of irritation and admiration. Ryan approached her with a data tablet in hand. We finished cataloging the energy readings from the chamber, he said. Everything looks stable and the data is secure. You should review it before we report to the council. She took the tablet, noting how calm he remained despite everything they had faced. Thank you, Ryan, I will review it. He hesitated for a moment, then spoke. Lyra, I know this may not be the right time, but I wanted to say that working with you has been enlightening. You think differently from anyone I have met. You make me see things in ways I never expected. Lyra felt her heart skip. She looked at him quickly, then turned away. You are here to assist the mission, not to speak about feelings, she said, her voice firmer than she felt. Ryan nodded, understanding, but his eyes held a gentle curiosity. I understand. Hours later, the ship approached Varnus. The twin suns reflected off the hull, painting it in gold and silver light. Lyra felt a strange nervousness as they prepared to land. The council had requested a full report. She had expected scrutiny, but what awaited her was more complicated than she had imagined. The council chamber was larger than any she had seen. Dozens of Varni leaders and diplomats filled the seats. They turned as the Star Reach's crew entered. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as the humans walked in alongside the Varni scientists. Many of the older council members still disapproved of human presence, and some openly questioned why Varni knowledge should be shared at all. Captain Thal stepped forward to speak. Honored members of the council, We have returned from the Crimson Nebula and the Lost World. The mission has yielded unprecedented data. I now leave the details to our chief scientist, Dr. Lyra Vallon. Lyra stepped forward, her hands steady despite the tension in the room. She began to speak, her voice clear and confident. The planet we investigated is home to a civilization older than any recorded in Varnai history. Their technology was advanced in ways we do not fully understand. Most remarkable, however, is a machine we discovered in the central chamber. It appears to interact with multiple forms of biological life, including both human and Varnai DNA. A murmur ran through the chamber. Several Varnai whispered to each other, their faces showing disbelief. Lyra continued, "This machine seems designed to encourage cooperation between species. The energy it emits responds to unity and harmony, not dominance or isolation. In other words, it is a testament to the power of connection." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I have spent my life believing that human emotion is a weakness. I now know that I was wrong. Humans possess qualities that complement Varnai logic and strength. Courage, compassion, and determination are not flaws. They are powerful traits that can strengthen us all." The room fell silent. Some council members frowned, some nodded slowly, and a few whispered excitedly. Lyra felt a small spark of pride but did not allow it to distract her from the truth she was presenting. Ryan stepped forward next, standing beside her. "I am honored to have worked with Dr. Lyra. Together we have seen that cooperation between our species is not just possible, it is necessary. There is strength in combining our knowledge, courage, and spirit. We can face challenges that neither of us could survive alone." The council members looked at the human with a mixture of surprise and skepticism. A few muttered, "He speaks boldly," while others remained silent, listening carefully. One of the senior counselors, a woman named Vera, spoke up. "Dr. Lyra, you are suggesting—" "What exactly? That our people should unite with humans?" "Yes," Lyra said firmly. "We cannot ignore the lessons of this discovery. Isolation weakens us. The energy machine we studied demonstrates that life itself thrives when species cooperate. Unity is strength." Another counselor laughed softly. "And what of our pride? Our history? Are we to mix our blood with a human?" Lyra felt her chest tighten but held her ground. "It is not about pride. It is about survival and progress. Fear of change should never outweigh the benefits of understanding. Humans are not our enemies. They are potential allies, and one day they may become part of our future in ways we cannot yet imagine." The chamber erupted into murmurs. Some council members argued, some nodded thoughtfully, and a few remained silent, lost in contemplation. Lyra looked at Ryan and saw him standing calmly, unwavering in his conviction. Together they had become an example of what she was advocating: unity and strength through cooperation. After hours of debate, the council agreed to further study the data and consider cooperation programs. It was not a full acceptance, but it was progress. Lyra felt a small sense of victory. The mission had not only uncovered incredible knowledge, but had also begun to change the minds of her people. Later, when the chamber had emptied, Lyra walked alone to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. She felt exhausted but also strangely alive. Ryan joined her, leaning lightly on the railing beside her. "You changed things today," he said quietly. "Your words. They made people listen." She looked at him, a faint smile forming. "I only told the truth. I let what we discovered speak for itself, but yes, it feels different seeing others finally understand." Ryan glanced at her, his eyes soft. "You speak of discovery, but I think you also discovered yourself." Lyra turned away, unsure how to respond. Her heart felt warmer than usual. "Perhaps," she said, "but discovery is dangerous. Sometimes it changes more than you expect." He nodded. "Sometimes that is the point." As the days passed, Lyra returned to her research, analyzing the data collected from the Lost World. She worked closely with Ryan, and the bond between them grew stronger. She noticed his quiet humor, his careful attention to detail, and the way he respected her opinions. The more time she spent with him, the more she realized that her initial mockery of humans had been born of ignorance and pride. One evening, after long hours of study, Ryan looked at her with a question in his eyes. "Lyra, do you think there is a chance that what we found could affect life beyond this mission? That it could change the way our people live together?" She paused, thinking carefully. It is possible. The machine's energy is unique. If we understand it fully, it could serve as a model for cooperation, not just between humans and Varnai, but across species. We could be standing at the beginning of a new era. Ryan nodded, and there was a quiet moment between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Lyra felt something stirring in her heart, something she had not felt before. Respect, admiration, and something deeper, though she did not name it. Weeks later, Lyra began to notice changes within herself. Her body felt different. Subtle at first, like a gentle warmth and a steady heartbeat she had not expected. She ignored it at first, attributing it to stress or excitement, but the feeling grew stronger, undeniable. A private test confirmed it. Lyra was carrying a new life, a child part human, part Varnai. She did not know what to feel. Shock, awe, and fear collided inside her. The realization of what had happened made her remember every moment with Ryan, the calm courage, the patience, the way he had respected and saved her. And she realized with quiet certainty that the child inside her was a symbol of the unity she had argued for before the council. The news was hers alone for now. She continued her work and maintained composure in front of the crew. But privately she felt something new: hope, responsibility, love in a way she had never known. As she looked out at the stars from her balcony once more, Lyra whispered softly, "Perhaps the future is not what I thought. Perhaps it is better, stronger, united." And somewhere across the city, Ryan gazed at the same sky, unaware yet of the life that connected them both, but sensing the shift in their shared destiny. Lyra knew the coming days would bring challenges. The council's full approval was not guaranteed. Her peers might question her choices, but for the first time she felt ready to face those challenges, not as a Varnai alone, but as someone carrying the hope of a new beginning, a life that symbolized the strength of unity and the courage of both species together. Years had passed since the mission to the Lost World in the Crimson Nebula. The galaxy had slowly begun to accept the idea of human and Varnai cooperation. Trade agreements were signed, joint research stations were built, and missions of exploration included both species working side by side. Yet no story was told more often than the tale of Dr. Lyra Vallon and engineer Ryan Hale. In the heart of Varnus, in a city glowing under twin suns, Lyra and Ryan watched as their daughter Mira played among a small garden of flowers that shimmered with gentle light. Mira's skin had a faint blue tint from her Varnai heritage, but her brown eyes mirrored her father's calm determination. She laughed freely, chasing floating light orbs that Ryan had designed for her amusement. Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth that had grown stronger with every passing year. "Look at her," Ryan said softly, resting his hand on Lyra's shoulder. "She is perfect, just like we hoped." Lyra nodded. "She is more than that. She is a symbol." Mira was already showing traits of both species. She moved with Varnai grace, but her laughter and curiosity were entirely human. She questioned everything she saw, touched the machines her parents had built, and listened to stories of the galaxy with wide, eager eyes. Lyra often thought back to the first time she had mocked humans in the council hall. She had laughed, believing them weak and reckless. She had never imagined that one of them would become so important to her life, so important to the future of her people. And yet here he was, Ryan, patient, brave, and kind, helping to guide both species toward a new era. One morning, the family received a request from the Galactic Council. Mira, now 7 cycles old, had been invited to speak at the council's annual assembly. It was unusual for a child to address the leaders, but the council wanted a symbol of unity and hope to demonstrate the strength of cooperation. Lyra and Ryan prepared Mira carefully. "You will speak with confidence," Lyra told her daughter. "Remember that what you say will matter." Ryan knelt to her level. "Tell them the truth, Mira. Speak from your heart. Show them what it means to be both human and Varnai." Mira nodded seriously, gripping a small pendant her mother had given her. "I will." The day of the assembly arrived. The council chamber was full of Varnai leaders, diplomats, and human representatives. Many whispered among themselves, curious about a child addressing the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. Mira stepped forward, flanked by her parents. The chamber grew silent as she began to speak. "My name is Mira," she said clearly, her voice calm yet full of life. "I am both human and Varnai. I have learned from both my parents. Humans have courage and hope. Varnai have knowledge and wisdom. Together we can do more than either of us could alone. The chamber listened intently. The world is full of challenges, Mira continued. Sometimes it seems impossible to work together. But we have seen that when we unite, when we share ideas and care for each other, we become stronger. My father and my mother taught me that unity is not weakness, it is strength. And that is why I am here, to show that together we can face the stars. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then applause began, soft at first, then louder. Many council members were moved by her words, seeing in her a living example of what Lyra and Ryan had fought for. Some who had once doubted the humans' value now realized that their prejudices were outdated. Others who had feared mixing with humans understood that the future required courage, trust, and collaboration. After the assembly, Lyra and Ryan walked with Mira through the city streets. Citizens of both species came to greet them. Children ran to Mira, curious about her unique heritage. Scholars and leaders stopped to ask questions about the mission to the lost world and the machine that had inspired unity. Lyra reflected on how far they had come. The city had changed, just as she had changed. She remembered the council hall where she had laughed at humans. She remembered the Crimson Nebula, the lost world, and the glowing machine that had responded to them both. And she remembered Ryan, who had never stopped believing in connection even when she had mocked him. "Do you think the galaxy is ready?" Lyra asked quietly, walking beside him. Ryan looked at the horizon. "Not completely. Some will resist. Some will doubt. But change takes time. Mira is proof that we are moving forward. And that is enough to start," Lyra nodded. "She is our hope. Our future." Mira, sensing the conversation, looked up at them. "The future can be bright," she said. "If we work together, it can be amazing." Her words were simple, but they carried the truth of everything her parents had learned. Lyra felt a surge of pride. For the first time, she fully understood that the child she carried years ago had become more than a life. She had become a bridge between worlds. In the months that followed, Lyra and Ryan continued their work. Together, they trained a new generation of scientists, engineers, and diplomats. Humans and Varnai worked side by side, learning from each other. Cooperation missions expanded across the galaxy, exploring uncharted planets, sharing discoveries, and building trust. One evening, Lyra stood on the balcony of their home, watching Mira play in the garden with human and Varnai children. The twin suns dipped low, casting long shadows over the city. She felt a quiet peace she had never known before. Ryan joined her, handing her a warm cup of tea. "Do you remember how we started?" he asked softly. Lyra smiled. "I mocked you. I laughed at the idea of working with humans. I never imagined I would—" She paused, letting the words linger. "I never imagined this." He smiled gently. "And yet here we are." "Yes," she said, looking out at the garden. "Here we are. And it is more than I could have hoped." Ryan took her hand, holding it firmly. "The galaxy is vast and dangerous, but together with Mira we have a chance to make it better." Lyra nodded. "Stronger. United. Everything we could not have imagined before." At that moment, Mira ran up to them, holding a glowing orb she had caught in the garden. "Look," she said. "It shines when we are together." Lyra and Ryan looked at each other and laughed quietly. The orb's light pulsed like a heartbeat, just as the ancient machine had once responded to them. It was a symbol of connection, harmony, and the power of cooperation. That night, as the twin suns set behind the horizon, Lyra sat beside Ryan and Mira. She watched her daughter sleep and thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the council hall where she had mocked humans, to the lost world, to the discovery of unity itself. Every challenge, every danger, every moment had led to this. A child who embodied the hope of two species, a bond stronger than fear or pride. In the quiet of the night, Lyra whispered softly, "The galaxy will remember us not for our discoveries, but for our courage to connect, to trust, and to care." Ryan squeezed her hand gently. "And the future will grow because of her." Mira stirred slightly in her sleep, a small smile on her lips. In that moment, the legacy of their journey, the unity of Varnai and human, the courage to change, the strength of connection, was clear. It was not written in books or laws, but in life itself, in the hearts of those who dared to embrace a new way of being. The city lights of Varnus shimmered like stars below, and beyond, the galaxy waited. There would always be challenges, new discoveries, and dangers in the unknown. But now, the Varnai and humans had something stronger than technology or knowledge. They had each other, and they had Mira, the child of two worlds, carrying the promise of a better future, and so, the story ended not with war or fear, but with hope, unity, and the quiet, enduring truth that humanity and courage could change the galaxy for the better. Lyra leaned back and watched the stars, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. For the first time, she knew that mocking the human she had once laughed at was a lesson she would never forget. Ryan had taught her that strength was not just in logic or power, but in courage, trust, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. And in the center of it all, Mira slept peacefully, a living testament to the power of connection, the hope of a united galaxy and the beginning of a new era that would shine brighter than any twin sun in Varnus.